So I'm making this video on the solar eclipse in Sagittarius on December 25th. That's in the US. And that is, of course, the day we celebrate Christmas here in the United States and the Western world. And you see we have the chart. I'll move the chart up. And you see that it's on December 25th. Here's December 20th. We move forward 24, 25. You see it's in Mula Nakshatra. This is a solar eclipse and it's in Sagittarius. The sun is eclipsed by Ketu. Ketu is nearby. So this solar eclipse here is definitely going to be a time of, when the sun and moon come together. It's especially in the same orbit or on the same plane, it brings a alignment of body, mind, and spirit. We have the eclipse because the orbits of the sun, moon, and earth all line up in the same plane in three-dimensional space. And when this happens, the function or the faculty of body, which is related to the earth, and mind, which is related to the moon, and spirit, which is related to the sun, are all aligned at the same moment in time and in space. So that creates an eclipse, this solar eclipse with the with the moon in between the sun and the earth. And so this shows where there's an alignment. And again, you want to understand this alignment not just being, conceptual, but also metaphysical. So these three bodies are lined up at the same time. So it's the sun, moon, and earth are all lined up in a plane. That's why we have the eclipse. So what this means is that those things that are resonant on the soul level, which is the sun, line up with things that are that correlate on the mental emotional level, which is the moon. And then they also correlate on the physical level or the body, which is your awareness more than anything. When we look at things that are related to the body, it doesn't just mean your physical body, like your physical body is going to feel it. It means your presence, your awareness, your consciousness, and things that you are experiencing in the moment. That's also what we would call body. It just means your identity or your presence or your awareness. This is also related to the first house, which has to do with your physical body, but also just your presence and your awareness, because your physical body, your body is the only thing that's always present. That's why all of your karma or the real transformative layers of karma have to be experienced through the body, not just on the spirit or soul level, because you've incarnated with a body, and the body means your presence. So that's why in order to become enlightened or to have things impact in this lifetime, you have to experience them through the body, because you have karma through this matrix of body, mind, and spirit. So these things need to be integral. So this eclipse is happening, as you see, in Mula Nakshatra on the 25th. And this means a connection to that Sagittarius energy will be in body, mind, and spirit. So this is very much the sign of guru, of guru's grace, of belief, of hope, of having your beliefs and hopes and teachings become visceral and real through this matrix of the body, mind, experience, through the matrix of your karma and your body, mind in real time. So that means, again, things like your meditation practices, your spiritual practices of all sorts become very powerful, not just at that time, but around that time. Even, we have the solstice on Saturday. So that solstice portal that's opening on Saturday, December 21st in the evening, that's really profound and important. Because, now we're having the solstice and it's right near the solar eclipse. So we're really entering that portal now. It's getting closer and closer to becoming reality. And this nakshatra of Mula is really important and really powerful. We have to be ready to transform and uproot and destroy our preconceptions and our wrong ideas, and be willing to get swallowed up by our insecurities and fears, and emerge on the other side with greater clarity and awareness. I just put a couple links in the chat for the 2020 forecast for your sign and the free web class for the upcoming year as well. That'll be very helpful. But this eclipse that's coming, it's going to be quite intense, as you could see, all this Mula energy. And on that day as well, if you run this back a few hours, you'll see Mars moves into Scorpio on that day, and Mercury moves into Sagittarius on that day. If I go back a few hours, you'll see Mars moves into Scorpio like 8 a.m. on that day, and Mercury this is Pacific time, and Mercury moves in like 2 a.m. So just hours, when we have the eclipse, it's going to happen at about, you see this eclipse is going to happen in the evening. Let's say like this is around 8 o'clock Pacific time on December 25th. So you can see by that time Mercury is 1 degree, but still all these planets, there's planets moving and changing signs as well, which means that this, those functions are going to be a little bit disheveled as well. So Mercury, which has to do with speech, discrimination, communication, are going to be sort of confusing, and they're going from Scorpio to Sagittarius. So it's also, going to be kind of confusing at that time. You want to be careful because you could definitely be, get into, if not arguments, at least have a hard time like communicating or feeling understood or feeling heard. You might be frustrated with others. And of course, this is one of those big holidays. If you're spending time around family and whatnot, again, that's a pretty intense time. So that, that's going to be a big thing that you want to be aware of on that time, at that time, is feeling maybe kind of confused, not being able to speak very clearly, and even get frustrated and kind of explosive. This is a theme of that day, with all those planets in Mula Look, Jupiter is also in Mula, Sun and Moon and Mercury. Now, having Jupiter there is also very transformative for your teachings, because Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius, and it channels all of this energy toward greater hope and wisdom and purpose. This greater hope and wisdom and purpose is the point. And this nakshatra of Mula exists within that framework of Sagittarius energy. So this section of the sky, this Sagittarius energy, is a, it's more of a sort of through line where we're looking for greater truth and hope and wisdom and meaning. And then behind that is the transformative, kind of penetrating, transformative uprooting of Mula Nakshatra. As you've heard me say many times, that the first section of Sagittarius is the Mula energy, where we uproot and pull out by the roots the bad teachings and then plant good seeds in its place. But in the meantime, there's a hole that's left. And this is literally where there's a black hole, not just metaphorically, but literally. At this point in the sky, this is the black hole that's at the center of our galaxy, because this is the plane of the galaxy, and the galactic core is here. So feeling this transformation and this, and sort of passing through this darkness and seeing this darkness, but being inspired by at least the fact that we can see the truth. We've seen so much of this in the last couple weeks with, we see it in the politics, of course, of, even world politics, big things in Britain. There's been a lot of uprooting of, horrible things in India, with a lot of protests, like around women, and also things politically as it relates to certain kinds of policies, immigration policies. We see it again, with Brexit. We see it in the US, of course, with the impeachment, and just really seeing the dark underbelly and seeing the truth of whatever it is. Like I said, when this started a couple months ago, that when Jupiter goes into Sagittarius, he's going to get impeached. Who knows if it'll get removed, but we're going to see the truth. We're going to see the truth of all of it. That doesn't mean that the truth is just always. It doesn't mean it's necessarily justice, where there's punishment or whatever necessarily, or there's consequences. But at least we're seeing the truth, which means we see the truth of how the system works. And this is one of the biggest things that I have felt, that where the things that I've been saying for a long time, my views about things, especially political, because people have projected a lot of what they think my politics are, is my thing is always that the system itself is corrupt. I'm not for any of them. I see the systems are corrupt on both ends, all around, and we're seeing that. We're seeing the utter complicity of the system, and everyone who is decent and honorable is chewed up. The decent, honorable people that are just doing things because they're trying to do the right thing and showing things that are obviously true are just swallowed up and squandered in political machinations of self-interest and greed. And again, seeing all of that now as being true and trying to really see what's true, and the opportunity, maybe culturally we're seeing it, but also personally in your life, to pull out by the roots those things that are hypocritical, seeing hypocrisy, not just in the world, but in your life. Where are you being a hypocrite? Where are you hypocritical? Where are you out of alignment with your teachings? Where you say you want some kind of sense of justice or sense of truth, but underneath it all, you don't really. It's just yak, yak, yak. You talk, talk, talk. Talking about how you want to be spiritual or talking about how you want to be this, but then underneath it all, you don't. You just really want to be happy and all. I'm not being critical, by the way. I'm just saying it's a time for you to see the hypocrisy in your life as well, where you're walking the talk or not walking the talk. You see it all the time. Everybody is so interested in, again, spiritual growth or this or that, or I hear it all the time. We all hear it. I definitely see it in my life with things like, people are interested in studying, or they're interested in this, they're interested in that, and then underneath it all, it's just talk, 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 right? They're really not. It's like I've said here recently, they're excited about the idea, but then when it comes down to actually sacrificing to do something, or doing something like, for example, spending the money on the classes, and then, or getting into the thing and actually doing it, not just getting all excited about it, but doing it. I don't know, maybe not. Just notice these things. By the way, these aren't judgments. It's not judgments like, again, it's just seeing things for the way they are. Problems come when we get disappointed, which is another quality of Sagittarius, and having our disappointments wear on our mind. Because what can happen is then we can get disappointed and then be bitter about our disappointments and feel like we've been cheated, or our disappointments lead to feeling cynical and bitter. Again, like I say, to use the political example, look, I don't have any expectation that any of these people are going to do anything really for my life. I just want them to not destroy things, not hurt other people. But I know they're all, for the most part, sort of cunning politicians. And as long as they don't screw things up too badly, I know that they're doing things for a political calculus. And as long as it's not evil and aligned with just massive corruption and massive ripping off everybody, I'm not going to be too disappointed. Okay? Even the best ones are going to get ground up in a system. That's my expectation level. So I'm not bitter and twisted up and horribly disillusioned by any of it, because I don't have the expectation that it's anything more than it is. And I'm pleasantly surprised when there's any integrity in any of it. So when you see, let's say, like a politician who is actually really pure-hearted underneath it all, it's just shocking, because the system, and if your expectations are realistic, then you're not going to get disappointed and then get really bitter or something like that. I'm just giving this as an example because all this Sagittarius energy, this is a lot of what we deal with Sagittarius energy. It's not often talked about, by the way, but this is the kind of parameter, the kind of matrix and the kind of parameter that we deal with when it relates to Sagittarius, which is, again, this hope, this projection, this disappointment, and where that leads. That leads to, or that can lead to, bitterness, cynicism, and then just like feeling cheated and actually a fanatical snapback against the other thing. Again, you see this with these political figures where people project all this hope, like, you're my savior, you're here to save me, and one is a savior, the other is the devil. Notice people that think that one political figure or one political party, those who think that one is the savior are going to project that the other one is the devil, the oppressor. Savior-oppressor complex. This is why anytime I say something about Trump, I get all this projection about how, oh, you just hate him, you're the devil, he's the savior. And it's kind of like, if you just say an obvious thing about someone who's obviously being corrupt or whatever, those who see him as a savior, you're attacking their very sense of purpose and hope, the thing that gives them hope and purpose, as an example. And again, I'm using this external example and using this as an example because you might see it in some of the things I discussed, but look at it in your life. Where are you projecting way too much hope, and how are you disassociated from the true source of wisdom and the true teachings and the true gurus, which come through your experience, not your belief in something, but your practice of that thing, putting those beliefs and that sense of hope into practice. What that demands is that you uproot the bad teachings. This is why, again, just to go back to it, this is why the first part of Sagittarius is Mula, which is pulling out by the roots all that stuff, all that darkness. This stuff I'm talking about here is the darkness. If it's not a political figure, it's some external thing in the world that you hope is going to save you. Well, guess what? Nothing's going to save you. Nothing's going to save you. And what's going to save you is your own spiritual practice and your own connection to truth. And this, this whole idea of a sort of, black hole, you would say, and being, sort of subsumed by our fears and allowing ourselves to sink deeper into our fears. And that includes like a fear of annihilation or being annihilated by something external in the world, is really about your ego and the need to allow your ego to get destroyed and to allow your ego to get swallowed up by truth, devotion, and ultimately swallowed up by love, divine love. This is what a guru winds up being. People say, oh, I'm looking for a guru. Where am I going to find my guru? Finding a guru is in your heart. People look to find a guru for the same reason they find something else, because they think they're going to get something from it. I'm not being critical. Again, I'm not being judgmental of that. I'm just addressing it. I'm just saying the truth. We look at everything as, through the lens of what's it going to do for me? What am I going to get out of it? Whether it's astrology or a guru or anything. And again, of course, that's what we're going to think, because we're identified with ourselves. This is me. I'm this person who's living this life. So of course, what am I going to get out of it? What is it going to do for me? It's a good question. But an authentic guru and authentic teachings they actually destroy that whole game. And it's an authentic guru when you're not in it for you, when you're in it for them, or you're in it because there's just love there. For example, this is why people's children wind up being their great gurus. People that have children, they wind up saying, I learned more from my child than I ever learned, and the child was your greatest guru. Right, because you know what the child was? The child was the thing that you loved more than yourself. And when I say yourself, I mean your ego. This is what the ego is. It's the false self. It's the self that's trying to save its own skin and make sure it's going to get what it wants and make sure that it survives. Because we love the child more than we love our own survival or our own, self-interest. That's our greatest teacher, because love is the greatest teacher. So when you find a spiritual guru, the real, the way it's your real guru or your real teacher is because there's love there, not just self-interest. And you want to be around the guru just because they're beautiful and you love them. Something resonates in your heart. And sometimes you can get around a great spiritual teacher and it doesn't feel like that at first. You're just there because they feed your mind in a certain way, or there's wisdom there. But at some point, when it becomes a deep Satguru or a great guru, love kicks in. And then it becomes devotion. Then you're not driven by just your emotions and your emotional fears and your emotional fear of getting swallowed up by something. then it's not about your emotions, it's about devotion. And then you can't wait to be swallowed up. But then you're swallowed up by love, just like a parent is swallowed up by the love of their child, where they're subsumed and consumed by the love of their child. And then it's service and devotion. Before it's that level, and until it's that level, you're not being swallowed up by love, or you're not surrendering to it, that's what surrender is, when you willingly let go of your own power to surrender to something higher, and it's the power of love. Before that, you're afraid of being swallowed up by something. So you're either allowing yourself to surrender and be swallowed up by love, or you're afraid that you're going to get swallowed up. And the part that's afraid is the ego that's saying, no, I'm going to hang on to this. So you see in all of those negative, all the negative tendencies we have, especially to be exploited by our fears. Now we live in a fearful time where those people who want to exploit us, and that means politicians, look at all the fearful manipulation going on. Those who want to exploit you, they know how to exploit you. They exploit you through your fear. It's love or fear. Your fear of being dominated and destroyed. They know that if you connect to love, they're going to be the ones that don't have any power over you anymore. Because when you're connected to love, nothing external has any power anymore. You're following your own authority. And that's the only real authority you have, is the connection to the heart, which is the moon. And that connection comes and leads you back to the sun. So eclipses are so powerful in this regard because all three are lined up, and you have to feel it in the earth part, which is your body and your consciousness and your awareness, like I said at the beginning. This is why with eclipses, all three line up: body, mind, and spirit. And so this section of the zodiac especially, this is why we're so much on this razor's edge of light and dark. We see it so clearly. If you're alert. If you're not, you're just being triggered, and you're in some faction. You're in one camp or another. And it's been fascinating for me to watch the truth just come out. And again, when I say the truth, I don't even mean the truth like this of the side that I might want to win or some outcome I'm looking for. I've unbolted these things a long time ago. There are outcomes that I knew would happen, like I knew Trump was going to get impeached. For example, just to talk about politics. Impeached means in the House. That was as much as anything because I know politics. I knew what he had done, and I knew, they're going to vote to impeach him. Who knows about where it goes from here? But even just watching all the machinations that happen as a result, and just seeing the truth of what's really going on, and just watching the motivations with detachment and with discrimination rather than what I want to have happen. I don't even know what I want to have happen. I'll tell you the thing that I mainly want to have happen, even with that situation. And I said it a few weeks ago. I want it to drag on for a long time. I want to see all of it. I hope that, for example, like in the Senate, with where this is going, like in the politics, I want to see some drawn out thing. I want to see Hunter Biden and Joe Biden and Adam Schiff and then Mulvaney and Bolton. I want to see all of them. I want to see a shit show like we've never seen. Excuse my language. But I want to see a mess. I want to see all of it. That's what I want. And we could. I want it all to be shown. I want it all to be revealed. And we're going to see what we're going to see. Whether all of it comes out or not, whether you get this one or that one or this one or that one, we're going to see, and it will require a little more finesse perhaps to recognize what's going on, like behind the scenes or whatever. But the reason I want to see it all is because I want us all to see it all. And it's very likely that that could happen in one way or another. Things could really shift. And I said this a while ago. I said a while ago that I am definitely not marching lockstep with any of the conventional wisdom that's being said about the politics. Oh, they know there's no hope that they'll impeach him in the Senate. Nobody knows any of this stuff yet. No one knows anything about what's going to happen. We're right near an eclipse. Anything could happen. We could have, for example, we could have any of these people, especially someone like John Bolton, who hates Trump. John Bolton could come out tomorrow and just say, and do an interview and just say, here's what happened. And just, that would just blow the thing sky high. Anything could happen. We have no idea what could happen. And to think, especially because I also know, and anyone who is watching this with discrimination knows, that what he did was absolutely wrong. And he has an entire party of accomplices covering for him. This is, and again, I'm not saying this, people that don't see this, it's just because they don't want to. He could have had people come and completely exonerate him, but of course they don't, because they know that if Mulvaney and these other people involved in this were to testify, it would be utterly impossible to then not remove him from office. This is why. This is why the Republicans are saying, no. Let's talk about whistleblower and all that. Let's not talk about those people who actually know what happened. So it's unprecedented level of hiding and concealing what happened from the public. And again, those who have no sense of history or don't care just aren't going to look at it. They're just going, no. But we've never seen anything like this. Even Nixon, all the people testified. With Trump, no one's testified. He has stonewalled everything because he knows that if this ever comes out, he will absolutely be thrown out of office. Even the Republicans could not cover for this. They couldn't. Or if they did, again, maybe they would, and then we would see that truth. But the truth we would see once it's all revealed would be so obvious. So it's going to be so obvious anyway, because let's say, for example, they don't let any trial happen. That's going to be so obvious. So we're going to see this, but I want to see the whole thing blow sky high. That's what I want to see. First of all, it'll be some highly entertaining craziness. And you know what? At this point, it's been so crazy and it's been so full of confusing crazy and innuendo crazy that we need visible, in-your-face, crazy bonkers for a while just to show the truth. And this is why I said that it would turn into that. From Scorpio to Sagittarius, that's actually the difference. Sagittarius is external, masculine, especially Mula is like, let's just blow this thing up. This is why I said I am definitely not following any of the conventional wisdom that people are saying. And by the way, I also said a long time ago that the longer this thing goes, the worse it will get. Again, the stupid conventional wisdom of the Democrats, which again, they're very political. And we're seeing this too. Because of political expediency, like, oh, we don't want it to go too long because it's not good for us politically. And I know that's a mistake. The longer it goes, the better it is for them. The better it is for the truth. So we're seeing all of that. And anyway, so this is what we're on. Well, I'm talking about this because we can see this in world events. But again, also look in your life because this eclipse is happening. And this, this has parallels and correlations in your own life. And yeah, just a few statements. Ann says, just look what he said about Dingle. Yeah, and just what he's doing anyway. Just, again, one of the things about it, too, is the longer this goes on, again, we have this thing happening now where Pelosi's like, well, maybe I just won't deliver the articles. We already know nothing's going to happen until early January. So we already got a couple weeks now. We got about 2 weeks now, at least, of nothing happening. And, a president who cannot sit still, who knows what he's going to say and do, and just... Anyway, I don't want this to be so political because there's a lot more going on, but I'm alerting and showing just because we can see this thing playing out. So this nakshatra of Mula, again, even in your own life, you can see how your preconceptions about what you think is real, what you think is right, the truth that you're following, the things that you are hoping will save you, the things you're attached to that you are taking so personally, all those things are getting eclipsed. And this is being shown now. Now, if we bring up the chart again, you can see all these planets are in Mula. That includes Jupiter, Sun, Moon, and Mercury just pokes his head in Mula. So he had just poked his head in there. And so there's, this uprooting on many different levels that is really a challenge to reach down into a deeper part of your mind and examine your thoughts, examine your ideas, examine your judgments and your biases, and look at how much devotion is underneath it all. And I mean devotion to something beyond this world, how much you're willing to surrender, or how much you are surrendered to something deeper. And you can notice your stress level about these things of the world are in direct proportion to those things. This world, nothing in this world is going to save us ultimately. A few years ago, I was spending time with my guru Amma, and sometimes when I'm in her presence, during those precious days, you have some crazy dreams, have some wild dreams. And I had this dream that I was in a boat, and I was in a boat and out in the where there was no land in sight, and it was just me and this rowboat by myself. And it was like an ocean. It was very calm water, and there was no land anywhere. I was just in the middle of the ocean, very calm ocean on a boat. And in my mind, the idea or the compulsion was, and the idea that was, I was supposed to jump in the water and drown, allow myself to drown. And that's what was in my mind at the time, was that this was, Amma was saying in my mind that yes, this is your life. You're in a boat in the middle of the ocean. There's no land in sight, and you're going to drown. It's yes, that's what's going on. And I was scared. And she said, no, don't be scared. You're here to drown. You've come here to drown in the ocean of love. That's why you're here. You're here to drown in an ocean of love, and not hang on to life as much as you can and fight and then die fighting to survive. But you're supposed to jump. So go ahead, jump in and drown. And that was the dream. And I jumped in, and then I woke up. But this was the thing playing off in my mind. She's like, yes, this is what I'm here. I'm the ocean, and you're here to drown yourself, to jump in and trust that yes, you're going to drown, but it's just the body. You're here to drown in the ocean of love, and I'm here to drown you. It's pretty intense. But that was all taking place in my mind. The dream itself, it was like I said, I was in a rowboat in a very calm ocean, and there was the sun. It was a beautiful day, and it was like a clear lake. almost like a frozen lake, but it wasn't cold, but the lake was completely still, or the ocean was completely still, no land anywhere. And in my mind, that's what I was aware of. I was like, how do I get out of this? I don't have any food. How am I going to survive? And it was like, you're not. What do you think? And just like, what do you think you're here to do? I was just having a dialogue in my head. She's like, well, that's why you're here. You're here to drown. So go ahead, jump in. Better to do it consciously. And see, this is what winds up happening even in our life. This is actually what meditation is and what spiritual practice is basically slowly drowning in the ocean of love, the ocean of devotion. And when you have a guru, again, this is what a guru is. A guru is, if you've ever been lucky enough to see that and to be around a guru, you know that it's nothing but an ocean of divine love, that your destiny is taking you to that place and there is nothing to fear. First, you acknowledge, yes, that is my plight. That is my plight. And by the way, a great guru will tell you, they'll remind you of it more than you care to hear. They'll remind you in their own way that that's actually what's going on. And they'll basically invite you to do that. Say, no, that's why you're here. That's why I'm here. I'm here to drown you. So jump in. And don't fight. Just relax. So that's kind of a... that story, it came into my mind today when I was thinking about this eclipse. And also this nakshatra of Mula, especially because it is literally like a black hole, but there's a quality, this feeling of drowning or having things pulled out, but also just sinking and going into the depth. So, besides that, you have Venus and Mars in these adjacent signs. Mars has just gone into Scorpio, so there's a lot of power there, a lot of discipline power for the next cycle. And Venus is in Capricorn, which is a lot of beauty, creativity. So that day in particular, and even the day before, and even between now and then, there is a lot of intensity, a lot of intense emotion, a lot of intense feeling, and a great capacity to transform that. So I added a couple links again to my 2020 forecast where these are free classes that I'm that describe 2020, and you can also get 2020 forecast for yourself. And so, looking at some comments here. This is funny. Okay. So, but anyway, Darcy is here. So happy to hear the eclipse report. Yay. And so this is what I wanted to say. I hope this is has been helpful. This eclipse will be very transformative and definitely a time to plant new seeds, uproot those painful habits, mental, these very debilitating mental habits and grooves and attachments. Again, this is a lot of what Sagittarius is about, and especially the first section of Sagittarius, which is Mula. And this Mula Nakshatra, one of the biggest things we do is we uproot and pull out those things where we have a lot of negative, unhealthy attachments. and those negative, unhealthy attachments are things that have taken root in us. They're literally like seeds that have been planted. And you can look at it this way. In fact, seeds are deeply related to karma and samskaras, which are karmic patterns in your mind, which is what the astrology chart shows. The astrology chart, anyone's astrology chart, shows all of your samskaras or your karmic patterns and habits. That's what your karmas are. When you're looking at someone's chart, you're looking at their karma, but that means the karma and the actions they've taken and how that has formed their mind. So when I'm looking at someone's chart, I'm looking at how their mind works and how these deep roots, like this forest of these like trees, this kind of forest of their karma that they're kind of sort of navigating. And we have all these attachments because these roots have, these ideas have taken root in our mind. So we don't let go of our mind and our ideas very easy at all. It's some of the hardest stuff we do. This is why that transformation from Scorpio to Sagittarius is very transformative and very wrenching and very unpleasant for people. It's very unpleasant for people a lot of the time. And again, it's also why, as I said earlier, we're very susceptible to people exploiting us based on our fears and planting seeds in our mind that take root and that form a lot of attachments. So pulling out these negative tendencies by the roots, that's a lot of what spiritual teachers do. It's what our gurus do. And then ultimately, that's what our practices should take us toward. So again, it's very much about these deeper practices. And I hope this has been helpful for you to hear. And this, I'll leave it at that.